Who is the rudest celeb you have met? What happened? Stephen Baldwin and Chad Michael Murray both tried to get stuff for free and pulled the "do you know who I am" for something that was $5. Baldwin also gave his number to a teenage co-worker, and we called it to see if it was real, not even thinking about caller ID. He spent the next year randomly calling her. My favorite celebrity encounter was making a smoothie for Gordon Ramsay. He was super nice and said he would be back later to get his friend something. The friend was David Beckham, who was also super nice, and they stayed and took pictures with everyone. The Ramsay story makes me so happy. He is one of my most favorite celebrities, and I have always desperately hoped his personality was genuine. His persona when he's not in head chef Hell's Kitchen mode just seems stellar and very down to earth, but it's always hard to know what's just an act. Thanks for sharing. I used to live in the same city as Tommy Lee Jones, and there was a point in time where if you worked in the service industry, you either had your own story about him or knew someone who did. I have a few of my own. Celebrity or not, he is, hands down, one of the rudest people I'll ever come across. Very demanding and hateful. He looks down on service workers and treats them like shit, but at the same time expects them to simultaneously 1. Know who he is, 2. Not acknowledge who he is, but 3. Give him special treatment because of who he is. Well, I'm convinced he wins the award in this thread based on the amount of times he's mentioned. Tommy Lee Jones was awful. Worked with him doing press on a film he was in, and we had to keep him plied with alcohol to even acknowledge the reporters. He would also grope the female staffers with regularity. Just nasty. He got a call to David Spade's room at like 2 a.m. because he had issues with his Wi-Fi. When I told him I couldn't fix it and he had to wait for IT in the morning, he said in the most deadpan David Spade way, "I figured you wouldn't be able to fix it. I didn't figure they put their best and brightest on the graveyard shift." That's mean, but I won't deny it made me chuckle a little. Actually, did he? Came into a very popular place I worked after closing time. We kept the kitchen open with all of the staff there for his entourage. They came in 45 minutes late, ordered chicken teriyaki, cooked to order, and got up and left without paying because it took too long. World-class piece of shit, and here for all of it. Karma is an absolute bitch. Ozzy Osbourne once wandered drunkenly into my workplace, asked to use the bathroom, didn't close the door, pissed all over the toilet, and left me with that mess to clean up. Rock and roll, I guess. BJ Novak. I used to cook bartend at a local dive bar when I was in college. He came and did a comedy set for the students. He bombed. It was awful. After the show, I went in for the late night shift. As I'm standing there behind the bar clocking in and getting ready to head back to the kitchen, in walks BJ and sits down at the bar looking completely bummed. Our main bartender goes over to talk to him. He sneered at our menu and asked for things that he knew we would never have. This was where the broke college kids and even more broke townies drank. The fact that we offered more than 1 vodka was a miracle. He finally picked something, and the bartender asked to see his ID. Keep in mind that this is a college town bar. We carded everyone that ordered a drink, regardless of how old they looked. There were signs saying this in about 8 different places. BJ lost it. He completely blew up on our bartender, cussing him out and saying things like, "Do you know who the f*** I am? I'll buy this place and fire the whole f***ing staff." Our bartender knew exactly who he was, but was quick enough to say, "You look like some sort of off-brand Seth Meyers. Either show me your ID or get the f*** out." He did eventually show his ID and went to sit in some corner. Every now and then he'd make a rude comment to a server walking by. When he tried to order another round, the bartender cut him off and kicked him out. Of course, he played the role of Ryan perfectly. I interned at a music management company in college, and one of the clients was Meatloaf. I answered the phone, and he asked for his manager. I told him the manager was on a call, and he started screaming he's on a conference call. "Are you kidding me? I'm Meatloaf. You know what? You." Then hung up. As a 19-year-old trying to get into the music industry, my face went white, thinking my career was over. To his credit, the manager, who had a famously bad temper himself, walked over to me, told me that Meatloaf was a buffoon who nobody respected anymore, and to not worry. Uma Thurman tried cutting me in line at a health food store, but I didn't let her. Met George Lopez at a Dodger game. Complete asshole. Told a buddy who works at the stadium about it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, he's rude to everyone down here and doesn't tip." Fuck that guy. That's so ironic. In the past, he ranted how when he was a younger he ran into Eric Estrada, whom he a huge fan. He said Estrada was a jerk, and he always remembered that. A relative of mine had an interesting interaction with LaToya Jackson. He was in the same elevator as her in another country. She didn't think he spoke English. So she started talking trash about how dumpy the country was and how much she hated the fans in that country. Then my relative asked her, so, do you ever go back to Gary? Apparently the look on her face was priceless. A lot of people in non-English speaking countries speak English. Not only is she rude but kinda dumb too. William Shatner said he would give me an autograph in Hawaii when I was about 10. He said, let me get a pen, got in his limo and drove off. He's known for attending Comic-Con panels, and I guess the second he hits his scheduled time limit, he will just stop talking mid-sentence and mid-story and just wave and leave. I wish I could do this in work meetings. Danny Masterson. I was an extra in a commercial for that 70D show. I saw him and Wilmer talking during a break, so I walked up and said I had recently seen a VH1 movie he was in and it was great and I admired his work. He mocked me and said it's just TV, it's not real, don't take it so seriously. Then rolled his eyes to Wilmer and walked off. I was just trying to give him props for making a good show and he basically gave me the finger. That guy. Dennis Hopper didn't smile once or make eye contact or tip. Not even after he forgot his cell phone. And it had to be kept under guard for him for 6 hours. Not even a thank you. Crushed me. Best, Billy Zane. I pull out the Billy Zane story every chance I get, so LL spare you the long version this time. That guy was a legend. Hung out us the entire night and came out again the next week just to hang out with us some more. I think it's way more funny than rude but Allen Iverson. I was young, probably 9-10 years old. My dad and I were coming back home from a soccer tourney in NC. We stopped at an Applebee's in Newport News for lunch quick. We walked in and 3/4 of the restaurant was blocked off with people. My dad goes, oh hey, that's Allen Iverson, go say hi. I walk over and say something along the lines of, hey, I like basketball. You're really good. Wanted to say hello. And he goes, not now, lil man. See how many just are up in here. I used to work in morning television in Chicago, and these were some nice folks I met. Chris Pratt, right after Guardians 1 came out, he was throwing out the first pitch at Wrigley and was nice enough to let me interview him. I'm not an interviewer, that Lemma cameraman, the producer, was late. Robert Englund, he chatted with a whole bunch of us and told us the importance of drinking a glass of wine. Michael Rooker, he was a gentleman and totally cool with me fanboying over him. Bryan Cranston, met him at an event with my son. He said hello, gave us fist bumps, and took a pic. Regis Philbin, super cool and down to earth. Nick Offerman, a gentleman, and was filming Parks and Rec, so he was in full Swanson gear. John Heder, cool, was down to do a bit with us. Chris Hardwick, chatted with me, very nice. Rudest, Pauly Shore was a total dick and couldn't have been less interested with being on our show. No surprise, but Bill Cosby, a few months before all the allegations came out, he did a show at the place I worked at. He refused to do sound and lighting checks or even leave his dressing room before the show. When the show started, he came out and berated the sound and lighting guys for about 15 minutes until it was to his liking. It wasn't like a humor thing, it was him basically yelling and the text while the crowd kinda looked on in horror. He was also a huge dick to all of us crew. My bosses took their job seriously because on a small show like that we might make $5K in profit after all the bills were settled. We had pictures in our lobby of all the past performers. Cosby had performed before, but a few days after the show we took down his picture in the lobby. On a side note, someone stole the picture of Bill Clinton we had hanging up. Zac Brown Band was probably one of the nicest groups to come through while I was there. Was nice and respectful to all us local crew, and even invited some of the students that were in the building on stage during sound check to get autographs and hang out for a few minutes. I hung out with Charles Barkley once in Philly, and for some reason he took a liking to me and was very candid and open. He told me you have to be nice to every single person you meet and it can be exhausting, but if you meet 100 people and are nice to 99 but not to one, then that one will bash you and tell everyone what a terrible person you are. People will believe them. Awesome guy. Was walking to the restroom while at a work dinner and walked past his table. He saw me do a double take, got up from his table, walked up to me and said, "What's up?" and offered a handshake. We talked for a few minutes and he asked what we had going on in the meeting room at the restaurant. Told him what I did for work and that it was great to meet him, but that I appreciated his time and didn't want to keep him from his group. Went to the restroom and made my way back to the meeting room. A few minutes later, he just walked into the meeting room and hung out with everyone for a while. Let everyone take pics and went on his way. Super nice fella. Jared Leto is a piece of shit. Aside from being an outright weirdo and an awkward human being, he is a predator and groomer. He harassed, stalked, and attempted to sexually prey on a friend of mine. When she refused his advances, he turned the dial from 100 to 1000. And mind you, this was after one meeting and no sexual contact or lead on from her. When she tried to inject a male friend in the situation, he was vehemently opposed to this. 100s of phone calls and texts. Avoid at all costs. Edit. I didn't get on Reddit for a day and am overwhelmed by the comments, so L will up some questions here. This happened 10 plus years ago in a Midwest city. She was approached the day of, or before, I'm not sure, his band was playing, was a bit starstruck by him, and was invited to his show. The situation rattled her, but she made it out of this situation relatively unscathed for how things could have gone. Being who she is, she was able and equipped to handle stuff like this. However, it has always bothered me that any woman younger, more impressionable, or in a different state of mind could have quickly been taken advantage of and assaulted in much worse ways. As a man, this gave me a lot of perspective and made me a lot more diligent about being aware of my surroundings when I am in public and with my woman friends. Be careful out there. Not everyone has bad intentions, but make sure you are safe. Can confirm, I did freshman year and part of sophomore year of college with him. Even at 18, he was an arrogant asshole. He would talk about how bad sex with a particular girl was from the other night while the girl was in earshot. The poor girl. Like, we were all just 18, 19-year-olds trying to figure it all out, and this dude is talking trash about a girl's lack of oral skills while she is nearby with her friends. What an asshole. Justin Timberlake. We were staying at the same hotel, and he wouldn't let my elderly grandmother on the elevator with him and two others. He stuck out his hand and said no and closed the door. On the other hand, Jessica Biel, who was in the restroom, was very friendly and talkative to my little sister while they were washing their hands together. My grandmother asked later, who was that asshole? I have some clients that interact with celebs and I get fun stories. One client is a private pilot. He said the loveliest he's flown is Green Day. Like, he just went on and on about how sweet and genuine and thankful they are. He said Mike Pence was extremely polite, a true gentleman, even though he can't stand his politics. He said Ariana Grande was a raging cunt and literally one of the worst people he's ever met. Trashed his plane, insanely rude and demanding. He refuses to fly her anymore. I have a few clients that work in film. My God, dude, they love working with Nicolas Cage, period. Very professional and extremely personal. Likes to have deep conversations and connect with everyone on set and remembers everyone's names. I love hearing Nick Cage stories. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments which celebrity you've met that was the rudest.